Hello, everyone, and many thanks for joining today's stream news summary from Moscow program. It is 19th of November, 11 o'clock in the morning, Moscow time. And as always, I have prepared quite a number of news on some major developments, and hopefully you will find news segment of today's stream informative, interesting, useful, entertaining. And in that case, please click that like button, leave some commentary, share link to my stream right now if you can with your friends on whatever social platforms you are using. And in case you want to support my work, I will just remind you that under this video in description box there is links to PayPal, Boosty, also Patreon page of mine, Boosty page, crypto. You can use those to donate, of course. And during the stream, because I'm streaming on YouTube and Rumble channels of mine simultaneously, you can use the super chat or round feature on Rumble to not just support my work, but to highlight any topic, really, any question that you might have. And you can become premium subscriber on Rumble. That's being said, dear friends, let's start the news segment itself now. And well, there is a lot of news, isn't it? A lot is happening. And I'm going to start with a report that you might did not really hear, even on alternative media in past days. And news is that there was an attempt to assassinate a former Russian defense minister and current secretary of the Security Council, Shoigu, Sergei Shoigu. And this attempt was prevented, of course. Russian security services did their job, but information itself is definitely one that deserves attention because Kiev regime, we all understand that Kiev regime could not pull out this kind of assassination attempts without assistance, direct assistance from NATO secret services. First of all, British secret services. I blame London for this attempt on life of former Russian defense minister and current secretary of the Security Council. Let me give you some details. A group of saboteurs, terrorists basically, acting on an assignment from Ukrainian secret services, has plotted an attempt to assassinate Secretary of the Russian Security Council, Sergei Shoigu. The Moskovsky Komsomolets newspaper reported, and their TASS is sharing this report from Moskovsky Komsomolets. The attempted assassination was intended to occur when Shoigu will visit his relative's grave at the Moscow Troyekurovskaya cemetery. 3 individuals were detained by Russian security services. According to reports that I read, a plan of Kiev regime and its British allies was to plant not just explosive device, but also video camera that was a stream the area, video footage of area, and once Shoigu would arrive on a grave of his relatives, Kiev regime will detonate explosive, killing. That's what their intent was, to kill Shoigu and whoever would be, together with him. Yet again, even though Russian security services pointed at the Kiev regime, I, on my part, blame London for this. I'm 100% convinced, 110 million% convinced, by the way, that this and many other assassination attempts, and in some cases even successful assassinations on Russian territory, was conducted with the active involvement of British secret services, not just Kiev regime's SBU or main intelligence directorate and their assets. Let's see how Moscow will respond on this development, if there will be any response whatsoever in terms of retaliation against the British terrorist regime. Of course, I will follow their developments, and if any update on that, I will share additional information with you. But this is very serious stuff. This is very serious stuff that is happening. Level of impunity with which globalists, and among globalists, of course, main driving force, most powerful force is a British aristocracy, British political class, and all the secret services that they are operating with. They get too emboldened. They get too emboldened, especially after they targeted the Russian nuclear triad. And seems like there is no red line that they would not cross. Literally, there is no red line. There is no crime that they would refuse to commit. British terrorist regime, globalists, and their allies, including their proxy regime in Kiev, of course. And unfortunately, this will continue until Russia will retaliate on globalists, right? Any Russian retaliations on Kiev-controlled territory and against Kiev regime don't really bring any pain to enemies of Russia that are pulling the strings, that is globalists, neocons, NATO leadership, basically, NATO member states leadership, their security services, their militaries, right? And therefore, no one should expect any decrease in terrorist activity against Russia by NATO member states, first of all, UK and US, of course, until Russia will retaliate directly against these NATO member states, their militaries, their security services, their military industrial complex, their military capabilities, and their political class. It's that simple, man. You don't have to be genius of modern times to understand that until Western elites will feel the pain, they're not going to stop. Correct? TASS news agency, meanwhile, is reporting, based on Russian Defense Ministry's latest update, that air defense systems on duty intercepted 65 drones that was launched by Kiev regime with the assistance of NATO, again, obviously, to strike deep into Russian territory. I can give you some details on that. So during the past night from 11 p.m. Moscow time on November 18th of this year to 7 a.m. Moscow time on November 19th, air defense systems intercepted and destroyed 65 Ukrainian unmanned aerial vehicles. 16 drones were intercepted over the Black Sea, 14 over the Voronezh region, 14 also over the Krasnodar region, 11 drones were intercepted over the Belgorod region, 9 over the Sea of Azov, and 1 over the Bryansk region. Russian Defense Ministry's update said at this point, no details about any casualties or more or less significant damage as a result of this yet another attempt by NATO and the Kiev regime to strike deep into Russian territory. If any update, of course, I will give you additional information during the next live stream. And what is also interesting, dear friends, yesterday, Kiev regime launched 4 ATACMS missiles to strike Voronezh city. Russian Defense Ministry confirmed this information. All 4 missiles were intercepted by Russian S-400 and Panzer air defense systems. And the Russian military is retaliated. Russian military intelligence was quite effective, quite rapidly, did manage to pinpoint the location of HIMARS multi-launch rocket systems that were used to launch these ATACMS missiles. And as a result of Russian retaliatory strike with Iskander-M missiles, these MLRS, at least 2 HIMARS MLRS launchers and their crews were neutralized in the Kharkov region. I can share with you video of this retaliatory strike that is circulating now on internet. I can share with you this video. So you can see Russian drone is monitoring those MLRS systems, their movement. And And then Iskander-M arrived. And you can see secondary explosions there. So at least two MLRS systems were neutralized, and their crews that were operating with these systems. And that means, by the way, that theoretically at least, there is a high probability that US military personnel was killed as a result of this retaliatory strike, because quite often media outlets, even Western ones, are reporting that all these HIMARS, all these strikes with the HIMARS MLRS systems are done with their US military involvement. And it is very much possible that US military, actual militaries, were operating with these HIMARS systems, or at least several crew members of these MLRS systems were US militaries designated as members of some private military companies. To maintain plausible deniability on their hands, Pentagon, US militaries, British militaries, French, German militaries, they usually take off from payroll militaries that they are sending against Russia on Kiev-controlled territory, and they're putting them on the payroll of private military companies, right? So in case they are captured there, well, they will have plausible deniability on their hands that, you know what, these people are no longer our militaries. They are, you see, we have paperwork of theirs. They are members of private military companies. But in any case, I think there is a high probability that these HIMARS launchers were operated by US militaries, and they were neutralized too. But well done to Russian military intelligence. They were very quick to pinpoint location of these HIMARS systems, and they destroyed them quite rapidly and effectively. And also, of course, well done to Russian air defense operators. They did manage to intercept all four incoming ATACMS, US-made ATACMS missiles. And once again, we all understand that the launches of these US ATACMS missiles could not be done without direct involvement of US military and US intelligence services. Flight path targeting, data, satellite navigation, always provided by the country of the origin of these long-range weapon systems. In case of ATACMS, it's US. We all know that. Let me continue with some other news. And well, past night, Russian militaries launched a relatively large-scale, long-range, precise strike on military and logistical energy infrastructure of the Kiev regime. This time around, seems like main direction of Russian strikes was Western Ukraine. And this morning I shared on my Telegram channel and Twitter X page. Subscribe, dear friends, if you are not subscribed. Subscribe to my Telegram, subscribe to my Twitter X. Links are on this video in description box. Quite often I'm publishing some news there that you might find interesting. So explosions rocked several regions of the Western Ukraine, according to local media there, so-called media. Explosions was heard in Lvov, according to Channel 24. Also, explosions occurred in Ternopil, Ivano-Frankivsk, and the Khmelnytsky regions. Number of energy infrastructure was targeted there, military, logistical infrastructure. And the RIA Novosti, for example, this morning reports that Russian armed forces struck a military base with the bunkers in Western Ukraine, in the Lvov region. Let me give you some details on that. So Russian troops destroyed the Ukrainian armed forces base in Stry, Lvov region. Nikolaev underground coordinator Sergei Lebedev told the RIA Novosti they hit the military base with their bunkers. Russian missile forces. That is, during the night and the morning, local media reported explosions in Kharkiv, Nikolaev, Odessa, Ternopil, Dnipropetrovsk, and Ivano-Frankivsk, also Khmelnytsky regions, according to their online map of the Ministry of Digital Transformation of Ukraine. Air raid alerts was issued throughout the country. The Ministry of Energy reported that emergency power outages were imposed in several regions. Maxim Kozitsky, head of local military administration, reported damage to a power facility in the Lvov region. And yet again, military base was targeted, according to Sergei Lebedev, coordinator of pro-Russian army ground or pro-Russian partisans, by the way, that are operating on acute controlled territory. Military base was damaged there with the bunkers, and who knows who was in those bunkers, right? Most likely, not just officers, high-level officers of Kiev regime, but also officers of NATO countries. Maybe we will receive some more information, some more clarification about these strikes. Would be interesting for sure. To continue, dear friends, of course, while all these developments are taking place, Russian militaries, without any stop, continuing to advance on the battlefield and improve positions, liberate more and more people, more and more settlements, territories. And we have this report, for example, the Russian Ministry of Defense confirmed the liberation of settlements of Tsegelner in the Kharkov region. This is right next to Volchansk, and also Nichevka settlement was liberated in Dnipropetrovsk region. Let me show you on the map these areas. So this is Dnipropetrovsk region, where settlement of Nichevka was liberated. And if you take a look at the map, dear friends, well, it is clear that Russian armed forces now cut at least in two places, at least in two positions, main supply and support line that Kiev regime's garnison had in Gulai Pole. And also, number of sources are reporting that it's not just Danilovka settlement and Nichevka settlement are liberated, which allowed Russian troops to establish physical control over this main supply and support line that Gulai Pole garnison had, but also Radosnaya settlement allegedly are in Russian control. Maybe today, Russian Defense Ministry will confirm this information. And when it comes to another settlement that was liberated by Russian forces, it's right next to Volchansk, northern part of Kharkov region, of course. So this is Tsegelna settlement on the southeastern side of Sinelnikovo settlement, and on the western side of Volchansk city itself, where Russian troops are conducting clearing operation now. And probably before end of this week, Volchansk clearing operation in Volchansk will be finalized, and Russian Defense Ministry will confirm full liberation, complete liberation of this town. I think so. But this is not all, dear friends. When it comes to developments on the battlefield, of course, you know about basically complete collapse of Kiev regime's defense lines in Zaporozhye sector around Gulai Pole. Also, just 2 days ago, I reported about tremendous progress of the Russian armed forces in Orekhov direction. Malaya Takmachka settlement was liberated by Russian forces, and this settlement is located literally on right next to Orekhov city, another stronghold of Kiev regime in Zaporozhye sector. And I expect offensive operation in direction of inside, basically, of Gulai Pole and Orekhov will start simultaneously in about it's hard to tell, but I think in next 2 weeks' time, we will see Russian troops in both these towns, in both these cities. Of course, attention of public is still focused on Pokrovsk-Mirnograd agglomeration area. Pokrovsk is under full Russian control, although clearing operation still continues. And I saw a video, by the way, yesterday, when two militaries of Kiev regime surrendered. And this video location was pinpointed by mappers, and this is the area where this Kiev regime's troops that were hiding for quite a while was filmed. Two militaries, they dressed her, and this is most southern part of Pokrovsk, so you can understand that clearing operation will take quite some time, isn't it? So these two militaries of Kiev regime, they were able to hide there for quite a long time, because this area was under Russian control, for a while now, right? At least 2 weeks, more than 2 weeks actually. And I guess once these two military personnel of Kiev regime ran out of any food, they decided to contact Russian militaries. Probably they saw Russian militaries that were passing next to the building, and they contacted them and surrendered. So you can imagine that such small groups are trapped and are trying to hide in many more areas of the Pakrovsk, right? And that's why Russian Defense Ministry is in no hurry to designate Pakrovsk as completely liberated yet. Once clearing operation is finalized, then yes. And when it comes to Mirnograd, yet again, Mirnograd garrison of Kiev regime is completely encircled, and the Russian troops also are in no hurry in this direction, and they are giving an opportunity to Kiev regime forces to basically surrender. And this is right approach, because at least 2,000 to 3,000 troops of Kiev regime are encircled in Mirnograd, and you can imagine that casualty numbers among Russian troops could be quite high if Russian troops will go ahead with the massive assault and offensive operation. So to minimize casualties, let's take time. It might be like week or 2 weeks, but life of our militaries is precious, right? So let's take whatever time is necessary. Eventually, this encircled garrison gonna run out of any food or anything whatsoever, right? Even weapons, and they're gonna surrender. Eventually, they're gonna surrender, right? So let's just wait for that. Cities are under the encirclement, and with the exception of very few, very lucky small groups, no one would be able to escape. No larger military units will be able to escape to Mirnograd. So Russian troops basically are finalizing that operation. Also, we have a major update about Seversk direction, because it seems like Russian armed forces conducted a lightning fast advance in direction of Seversk from southern sectors, and forward units of the Russian armed forces not just to reach city itself, but entered the city and already liberated several districts of the town. And you can see, by the way, gray zone is already on southern part of Seversk is already in the gray zone, right? Russian troops were spotted not far away from central part of Seversk. So quite surprising, I will say, information. I was expecting that Russian troops will first liberate Liman even, right? And then Seversk, because advances of the Russian armed forces towards Liman was very rapid from northern-western side. Also, Russian troops were advancing very rapidly in between Liman and Seversk, right? And just yesterday, I reported about the liberation of Platonovka, isn't it? Settlement that located exactly between Seversk and Liman. But now we have this report that in past 24 hours, Russian militaries conducted this lightning faster advance breakthrough, basically was achieved, and the Russian troops are inside Seversk, almost in the central part of their city right now, which can be seen as an indicator that local garrison of Kiev regime is not really battle capable or battle ready, right? And if that is the case, probably defense lines of that garnison of Kiev regime will collapse maybe even before end of this week, and Seversk will be liberated, because advance is just tremendous. Everyone was caught by surprise, I guess, with this development, with this success story on behalf of Russian militaries. So that's when it comes to some short update on the battlefield. And before I continue, the friends, let me just highlight, if I may, that this, especially for new members of community, that this project is completely subscriber funded. And if you like my work, if you want to see potential further development of this project, and I do have some ideas about direction that I want this project to move. And if you want and if you can to support her, please consider to do it. You know, all the links are on this video in description box and in the pinned comment. And I can tell you, dear friends, donations, when there is days that not a single donation was received by the project, those days are quite depressive, because I am considering those days as my personal failure. I'm beginning to think that no one liked my work that day. So it's a stimulus also, you know, when a project is receiving some donations. And also, dear friends, of course, if you would ask me, best way to support my work is to subscribe to my Patreon page, because with donations, you never know. Today you might have a donation, tomorrow no, day after no, and day after that also. But when it comes to Patreon and Boosty pages of mine, I can see and calculate approximate volume of funds that I have to maintain this project for the next months. So therefore, if you have a choice, if you have opportunity and want to support her and can support her, please consider to join our communities on Patreon and Boosty. In any case, links to my Patreon, Boosty, PayPal, crypto, all the links are on this video in the description box and in the pinned comment. And of course, many thanks to everyone who supported and continues to support. And of course, also you can use a super chat feature on Rumble during the streams and become a premium subscriber there. Everything counts, dear friends. Everything helps to maintain this project. And click that like button too, as Nidish is commenting right now. Likes and comments also help, I think. That's been said, dear friends, let's continue with some more news. And well, next one might come as a sort of surprise for at least some members of our community, because, well, reports are that U.S. Secretary of the Army will meet with the Russian side after his visit to Kiev. So U.S. Army Secretary Daniel Driscoll will hold the talks in Kiev, after which he plans to meet with the Russian side, according to Wall Street Journal. And we have a quote here from article. U.S. Army Secretary Daniel Driscoll, along with the two four-star generals, were scheduled to hold the talks with Vladimir Zelensky and other Ukrainian officials, as well as senior military and industry representatives. Driscoll later plans to meet with the Russian officials, the report said. According to newspaper, in Kiev, the delegation will discuss the situation on the battlefield, weapons production, and ending the conflict. No details about with whom from Russian side Driscoll and those two four-star generals are planning to meet, and where. Are they plan to come to Moscow, or meeting will take place on some neutral or formally or relatively neutral place? It's anybody's guess. But, well, interesting, especially if you take in account report from Axios, according to which Russia and US allegedly are developing a peace plan for Ukraine. The Trump administration is working with Russia to develop a plan to end the military conflict in Ukraine, Axios reported. The 28-point plan is inspired by Trump's strategy for resolving the war in Gaza, the publication notes. The deal includes four main components: establishing a peace in Ukraine, guaranteeing security for Ukraine and the EU, which is crazy, man. Guarantee of security for Ukraine and EU and not for Russia. And Moscow is engaged in these talks, really? Also, allegedly, one of the key points of this 28-point plan is future U.S. relations with Russia and Ukraine. According to Axios, Trump's special envoy, Steve Witkoff, who is leading the plan's development, discussed it in detail with the Russian presidential special representative Kirill Dmitriev during his visit to Miami in late October. Mr. Dmitriev told the publication that he is optimistic about a possible deal. However, it remains unclear how Ukraine Ukraine and its European allies will view it. Axios notes, and if we did not learn nothing until now, probably we will not learn nothing after. Also in the future too, I guess, right? Because if Russian leadership is still engaged in talks behind the closed door, like secretive talks with the US administration, and if Russian leadership thinks they can actually achieve any agreements with US and US administration will honor this agreement, then you know what? Probably we deserve this, man. If we are, this naive, if our leadership or if Russian leadership is this naive, that Minsk 1, Minsk 2, all the other agreements that were violated by the Western elites, including US elites, if all that experience is not enough to learn something, then you know what? Probably we deserve to be in the situation that we are, man. That's my comment on that, because I find it this reporter to be just a pure demonstration of how naive we have become, or our leadership here, right? Because there is no way in this and any other freaking universe that US will honor agreement that Trump or anyone else will sign up for. It's just not possible, man. And that's it. I don't even want to comment no more on this shit, man. It's a pure waste of time talking to these creatures, right, from Washington, or to talk with the representatives of Western elites in general, right? It's a pure waste of time. And if we don't know any better, then okay, man. Okay. It's crazy. Right, and very disappointing. I'm telling you, man, that I think I'm not alone, right? And I cannot give you a percentage, but I'm quite sure, significant number of my fellow comrades are on the freaking same page. That what else gonna happen for us to finally realize that you cannot have serious talks with the Western elites, man? It's just a pure waste of time, right? And harmful. Most importantly, it's harmful, right? If we are trusting them, it's a harmful because, we have examples, right? We have examples. We trust them with the Minsk 1. We trust them with the Minsk 2. Was it harmful for us to be distrustful? Was it harmful for thousands, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of Russian citizens? Oh, yes, very much harmful, man. Tragically harmful. And we are still on the same page, and we are trusting them again. Okay, man. Probably we don't deserve any better than in that case. Especially when there is so many freaking indicators that they are preparing for a war, man. They are preparing to kill us all, man, or at least as many of us as possible, to destroy Russia, to divide Russia, conquer all these parts that they see in their fantasies, and to rob, right, Russia from all the resources. And on this very topic, I can give you this report that I see on the Geopolitics Telegram channel. NATO countries plan to cut troop deployment time to Russia's borders from 45 days to as little as 3 to 5 days. Reporter is coming from Financial Times. This involves moving about 200,000 soldiers, nearly 1,500 tanks, and over 2,500 other armored vehicles across Europe. So they are openly preparing for a war against Russia. They are openly preparing to kill us all, man. And we are engaged with their useless talks with them. Okay. And to justify these preparations for a war against Russia, Western countries, including, and first of all, European countries, of course, are coming up with all sorts of false flag operations, by the way. We observed just in past months also freaking waves, right? Waves upon waves of these false flag operations with drones and planes and this and that. And there is another addition to these false flag operations. Now they are sabotaging railway and blaming that on Russia. For example, Polish Minister of Defense has accused Russia of the railway explosion, and on your screen right now you can see, allegedly, this is the photo made on the spot where railway was damaged, that is used allegedly to transfer weapons from Poland to Kiev-controlled territory, and you see the damage difference. It's like 1 meter of railway is being destroyed, right? To repair this, it's literally like 15 minutes work. It's a 15 minutes, half an hour work for engineers to repair this. And they are blaming Russia. Two Ukrainian citizens, two citizens of Ukraine were arrested, right? But they are blaming Russia. And they are saying that, well, these citizens of Ukraine were operating under the Russian orders, which is insane, by the way. Why would Russia be involved in such a freaking nonsense? I mean, you tell me, dear friends. If we are doing some sabotage, that should be something of importance, right? Not this nonsense, like damaging 1 meter real railway. To what? To do what exactly? To disrupt the movement of their goods there? No, you're not going to disrupt nothing, because engineers will repair that railway in a freaking 30 minutes, man. So what is this? What kind of clownish behavior is this on part of Polish elites or the Western elites in general? On one hand, they are saying that, well, Russia is coming, Russia is so scary, and we should all afraid, and therefore we should allocate all the money of taxpayers for military-industrial complex, for weapons, and for this and that. And on the other hand, they are showing public this, that Russia this scary Russia conducted sabotage, and all this sabotage did is destroyed like half-meter railway. Seriously? But this is, this report clearly indicates, intellectual level of the Western elites, by the way. They cannot think in a complex way, right? They are unable to think that, well, we cannot do this because it's just pointless, right? To blame this kind of stuff on Russia. If you want to blame Russia that they're conducting sabotage, then we have to blow up freaking bridge or something. And even in that case, somehow we have to justify why on earth Russia would blow up our bridge if we are not at war, right? Even in that case, people would be skeptical because it makes no sense. But this one, half-meter railway being damaged, come on, man. Either we are scary as hell, right, and coming for war or something, or just leave us alone, because this is crazy, man. This is crazy. Half-meter railway damaged, and, well, it's a scary Russia did it. Okay. But you see, because they have all these propaganda means in the West, by the way, they just don't care to explain anything to anybody. And seems like vast majority of public in the West quite happily eats anything and everything that is thrown for them by propaganda of the globalists, right? So if they hear in the TV that, well, there was some sabotage on railway, it was Russia, then majority probably say, yeah, must be Russia, who else? Okay. But we all understand, dear friends, that these waves of these stupid false flag operations are used for justification of increased hostility against Russia, and for justification of deployment of more and more weapons and manpower, military infrastructure closer and closer to Russian borders. And well, I just shared with you this information that they want now to drop timing for deployment of 200,000 troops, 1,500 tanks, 2,500 armored personnel carriers from the west to the Russian borders from 45 days to 3 to 5 days. So they are preparing for a war, Bob. They are preparing for a war. And hopefully we are preparing too. Hopefully we are preparing too. Although I don't know, man, if Russian leadership is that naive that they think they can achieve some agreements with these genocidal maniacs that represent collective West right now, either from US or from either from Europe, then probably we are not preparing for nothing. I don't know. Why would the Russian leadership prepare for war if they think they can have agreement with Trump? And with the Western elites in general. So it's I'm losing understanding of everything. It is what it is, man. Frustration is reaching some levels when at some point we're just gonna say, no, what, just fuck it, we don't care, man. If it comes to full-scale war, we will take freaking AKs and go and do whatever we can. Otherwise, no one is asking us anyways, right? Nothing. Seems like Russian leadership is in one world and the rest of the country is in another world, right? And more and more people are gonna think this way, man. Frustration will reach everybody. At some point, everyone will get sick and tired of this constant restraint that we are demonstrating and these policies that we are observing, man. I mean, enough is enough, for God's sake, right? What are we doing? What are we doing, man? If you have any understanding of the situation, please share, because I don't understand what are we doing. I don't understand in what kind of negotiations we are engaged, according to Axios, with the U.S. administration, when U.S. militaries, by the way, just yesterday tried to kill thousands of Russian citizens in Voronezh while launching those 4 ATACMS missiles. And ATACMS are quite a powerful weapon system. If ATACMS hit a high-rise apartment building, that building could collapse, man, and hundreds of people could die. Thousands potentially. It depends where that missile would strike, right? So Americans just yesterday tried to kill hundreds, potentially thousands of Russian citizens while launching those 4 ATACMS missiles. And Axios is telling us that Russian leadership is engaged in negotiations with the very same Americans, man. What the hell? What is going on, man? I don't know. I want to understand, but maybe I'm just too freaking dumb, man. And probably, yes, I'm just too stupid to understand anything. And that's it. My education, my experience in journalism means nothing. I'm just too fucking stupid, probably. Anyways, I'm going to continue to share my opinion, by the way, my take on this or that developments. And you be the judge, if I'm on something or not. RT is reporting also that Zelensky heads to Turkey. He's arrived in Turkey, actually, early this morning. And reports are that he will try to resume talks with the Russian side, which is quite strange because this comes less than a week after Ukraine's foreign ministry stated that they are holding or terminating all talks with Russian side. So it's not even a week since Kyiv regime said that they are no longer in talks with Russia. And today we have, or yesterday and today we have this report that Zelensky is in Turkey to restart the talks. What the hell, man? What the hell? Zelensky is panicking, of course. Zelensky is in panic. He understands that his time is up. His time is up. And as I said a million times before, either he agrees now to begin forceful mobilization of younger generation, people from 18 to 25, and also to escalate forceful mobilization in general to at least temporarily deal with the lack of manpower that Kyiv regime's forces are experiencing, or he's gonna be removed. Next several weeks will be very decisive in this regards. right? If Zelensky will not agree to sacrifice young generation people, global is going to remove him. And this will happen, I'm telling you, this might happen as soon as next several weeks, before end of this year. Meanwhile, press spokesman of the Russian president, Peskov, stated that Russian representatives will not be in Istanbul today. Moscow has not received any information from Kiev about her intention to resume negotiations. Although he also added that Russia remains open to negotiation process. So yet again, this reports that Zelensky arrived in Turkey to resume negotiations with the Russian side is clearly indicator of panic, more than anything, panic around his inner circle. And Zelensky himself is probably understands that with 1 foot he is already in the grave. His time is up. Also, circus continues in Kiev-controlled territory. Ukrainian parliament, state rather, failed to dismiss their ministers of justice and energy who are implicated in a Mindich corruption scandal. And they resigned. They resigned. But state rather refused to acknowledge their resignation. The parliament went on a break after some MPs blocked a vote demanding the resignation of their entire cabinet. So yes, Kiev regime is descending into a freaking chaos, isn't it? They are descending into a freaking chaos, and let's see, yet again, everything will be decided by topic of forceful mobilization of young generation people. If Zelensky agrees on that, if this so-called parliament in Ukraine will adopt legislation to begin forceful mobilization of kids from 18 to 25, then Zelensky probably will be saved for a short period of time, several months, maybe. If they will refuse to begin mobilizing young generation people, Zelensky is finished, and his administration, his government is finished too. And they will be neutralized before end of this year, most likely. And on this matter, we have this report that top Zelensky aider is facing imminent firing. According to some sources, Ukrainian leader Vladimir Zelensky could fire his influential chief of staff, Andriy Yermak, as a full-scale riot unfolds within the parliament over the vast corruption scandal that allegedly links Yermak to roughly 100 million kickback scheme in the country's energy sector. And yes, Zelensky might fire him, but this would not stop pressure on Zelensky himself, because everyone understands this corruption starts from Zelensky. Correct. And West will use this, all the materials that they have, all the evidences that they have about Zelensky's corruption, they will use it against him if he would not agree. And they will reveal more and more information, by the way, from defense ministry, for example, from levels of corruption in defense ministry. And that's going to be quite shocking for many, because in that case, talk's going to be not about $100 million, but about billions of dollars, potentially tens of billions of dollars that were stolen. And so, yet again, Zelensky cannot save himself firing people around him. Either he agrees on forceful mobilization of young generation, that's what demand is of the globalists and the neocons, right? Because they want to prolong this proxy war as much as possible. Or if Zelensky refuses, then he's going to be neutralized physically even, right? Probably globalists would not allow him to stay alive. They might let him go, flee Ukraine, but they will kill him anyways. And they will blame Russia. That's what is going to happen. And I just remind you that on this topic of this corruption and stuff in Ukraine, ex-Ukrainian Defense Minister Umerov is in US, and according to reports, he's cooperating with the FBI. So he can tell quite a lot, right? I think FBI knows perfectly well about everything anyways, right? But they need witnesses. And Umerov probably will sign up with the FBI witness protection program or something like that, right? And I don't think he's going back to Ukraine. Reports are that he might on 20th of November, but I don't think so. I don't think Umerov is going back. He's cooperating with FBI. His family lives in US. He's in US right now. And if FBI itself would not demand from him, or if Washington would not demand from him to go back to Ukraine, probably he wouldn't. Meanwhile, well, Saudi Arabia received sort of a fifth article level protection from US, allegedly. So Saudi Arabia designated their major non-NATO ally for US. And you know what, I can give you a short video of Trump's statement about it. Yet again, if Saudi leadership thinks that US will honor any agreement with them, and if they think, if Saudi leadership thinks that US will protect Saudi Arabia from Israel, if Israeli leadership decides to target Saudis, then probably they don't deserve any better, man, right? How anyone on this planet, I mean, really, dear friends, I'm honestly asking how anyone with a working brain can really believe that they can have an agreement with the US administration, this war or any other, that will be honored by Washington. Who can believe in this, man? How stupid one have to be to believe in this nonsense? Come on now. There is a freaking hundreds of evidences, factual evidences, when US is breaking. In this particular case, we are talking about US, otherwise, entire West is like that. There is hundreds of factual evidences when US and other Western countries are breaking agreement after agreement after agreement after agreement. They use diplomacy as a weapon, as a tool of deception, right? That's a historical trend. And still, there are people worldwide that think, well, you can reach some agreement with them. I mean, really? About what? Unbelievable, man. Saudi leadership is also something else, man. So let me give you, after Israel attacked her, after Israel strike Qatar, by the way, these royal families in Persian Gulf area are in panic, seems like. They are afraid. They were thinking that, you know what, because they are in a good relationships with Washington, they are sort of protected from Israel. But no, man, Israel don't give a damn, man. They can go and kill anybody anywhere. And that's what they do, actually, right? And they struck Doha, capital of Qatar, and they will do it, tomorrow if they want to, right? No one gonna stop them. If you think US gonna stop them, no, man. US is a tool of Israel. It's no other way around. US political class is controlled by Israeli lobby, right? That's how it is. Anyways, let me give you that video what Trump when Trump spoke about this agreement with the Saudis.
Really think about it, Your Majesty. I think that this is the best in terms of safety. Saudi Arabia has never been as safe as it is right now. You always had a little cloud over your head, and sometimes that cloud was very big. That cloud is not there anymore, and we want to keep it that way. So that's why tonight I'm pleased to announce that we're taking our military cooperation to even greater heights by formally designating Saudi Arabia as a major non-NATO ally, which is something that is very important to them. And I'm just telling you now for the first time because I wanted to keep a little secret for tonight. I just heard him say, oh, that's nice. That's another point you won today. and signing a historic strategic defense agreement, which we just signed a little while ago. So congratulations at South Carolina.
Okay, that's enough. So yes, if they truly believe in area that they're gonna be protected by US, man, that's just too bad for them, right? On the other hand, there are this increased dependence of Saudis on US definitely can be used by Israel, by globalists, Western elites in general, let's say, to provoke a major regional war in the Middle East. And one of the ways how they can try and do it is to provoke war between Saudi Arabia and other Sunni kingdoms there in the Persian Gulf and Iran, right? And US is working very hard, or let's say other way, Israeli lobby that is in control of US, together with the globalists that are also partially in control of US, through their neocon allies and through their assets that Democrats are. They are actively working to derail rapprochement that was reached between Saudi Arabia and Iran with assistance of China, right, a couple of years ago. Very massive volume of work was done to derail this restoration of the relationships between Riyadh and Tehran, and I'm afraid they are reaching some success in this regards, and that is too dangerous. That is too dangerous because I'm 100% convinced, by the way, that Western elites and their Zionist allies, maybe for different reasons, globalists might have different reasons, neocons different reasons, Zionists different reasons, but all of them are on the same page that they're going to provoke a regional war in the Middle East. And if Zionists have interest to do this because they generally want all the regional countries to be weak as much as possible to make easier dominance of Israel, neocons and globalists have other reasons to provoke regional war in the Middle East and shut down navigation in the Persian Gulf. They want to cut off China and global South in general from Middle Eastern energy sources and harm economy of China and the global South as much as possible, and also to increase, in that case, Chinese dependence on Russian energy supplies to the level of strategical dependence, which is dangerous, very dangerous, because I believe long-term plan of Western elites is to then, once they will force China to become extremely dependent on Russia, Western elites plan to provoke confrontation between the two, between Russia and China, right? And force China to use force. That's what they want. They want in long term, by the way. That's their thinking. They want in 15, 20 years from now, provoke war between China and Russia. I'm telling you, this might sound like a crazy, like some fantasy right now, but no, man, that's what their plan is. Middle East plays crucial role in energy supply of global South, obviously, and China, right? And if Western elites and Zionists succeeded provoking regional war in the Middle East on sectarian and ethnic lines. And when I say sectarian and ethnic, we should keep in mind, by the way, that these royal kingdoms, so-called kingdoms, by the way, in Persian Gulf, they are ruled by Sunnis, right? And they are majority Sunnis. I mean, maybe only Bahrain is where Shiites are majority or significantly present, right? But in Saudi Arabia, in UAE, Qatar, majority is Sunni, right? And they are Arabs. Iran is a Shiite Muslim country, majority Shiite Muslim country, and majority of Iranians are not Arabs. They are Indo-Europeans, right? So there is ethnic differences, religious differences, and that's what globalists, Western elites in general, and their Zionist allies want to use to provoke a long-term destabilization, long-term regional war in the Middle East. And to achieve that, you have to provoke war on sectarian and ethnic lines in that case, right? And to maybe US is agreeing to sell F-35s to Saudi Arabia, for example, to boost confidence of Saudi leadership that, well, if they will escalate with Iran, they will be militarily in a position to, hope for success, right? You see it's a complex game, by the way. It's a complex game, and let's hope Russia, China, India will use all diplomatic means to make sure that neither Saudi leadership, neither leadership of other Arab countries, and also neither leadership of Iran will ever escalate with neighbors, because this will only benefit globalists and Zionists, right? That definitely not the people of the region or the rest of the world. But game plan is that on the part of West, by the way. They want to provoke regional war, shut down navigation through Persian Gulf, which is, plays tremendous role in energy supplies, in terms of energy supplies for world economy. And while shutting down Persian Gulf, you think what China gonna do? How they gonna compensate lost supplies of oil and mainly oil, but oil and gas from Middle East? They will have no option but to increase import of energy from Russia, to increase this import to unprecedented scale, right? And that's exactly what Western elites want, because once China will be absolutely dependent on Russia, when Chinese economy will be absolutely dependent on Russian energy, they think, they have Western elites think they will manage to provoke confrontation between Russia and China. Probably they have a plan to orchestrate some regime change in Russia, or to somehow persuade Russia to move away from China, right? Which will obviously leave no options for China. At least that's their thinking. That's what they're thinking gonna be. That in Beijing, that if Russia moves away at that point, when they are so dependent on Russian energy, that they will say that they have no more options but to go ahead and through military means, secure closest energy fields, right? And where closest energy fields are from China? It's Central Asia, by the way, mainly Kazakhstan and Turkmenistan, and it's Russia, right? You see what the game plan is of the West. They want to provoke war in long term, in 10, 15, 20 years from now, by the way. They want to provoke war between Russia and China. That's what they want. And we cannot allow this to happen. Correct? And they are not even hiding, by the way, that they want to derail Russia-China relationships. They are not even trying to hide this that well. So, let's continue, man. Let's continue with some other news. And oh, shit. I did not... let me show you map now. This is too bad, man. I was operating with the map, but it was not showing on the screen. So yes, this is Middle East, Persian Gulf, of course, China as main receiver of energy sources from there, and Russia, of course, here. And I mentioned Kazakhstan and Turkmenistan that are located here, by the way. So while talking, I was also using map, but unfortunately, I forget to put screen capture on in a video. Okay, let's continue with some other news. And according to Israeli newspaper Haaretz, citing its sources in Damascus, reports that Russian delegation led by Deputy Defense Minister Yevkurov recently visited Syria for talks on resuming Russian military patrols in the south of their country. This would allow Russian troops to act as a buffer between the southern provinces of Syria and the Israeli forces. During the talks, the Russian side presented its proposals on this matter, and I mean, too bad, man. If true, too bad. Why Russian base is still there in Syria? Why Russian troops are there in Syria, man? Why? What we lost there? Nothing, right? And now Russian troops gonna risk their lives while staying, in the middle between the Damascus regime and southern Syria, Druze communities and other communities, and Israel, by the way. I mean, seriously, we are putting our soldiers now in harm's way for sake of Israel and for sake of what? Turkey? Where is the Russian interest in all this story, man? I don't know. Yet again, maybe I'm just too freaking stupid, man. And probably I am. But where is the Russian interest in all this story? Why we give a fuck about Turkey or about Israel or Syria itself, man? Let them deal with each other. Let them do whatever they want, man. They want to kill each other, okay, man. They want to live in peace, okay. It's none of our business, man. Why are we there still? I honestly don't understand, and I don't even want to understand, man. We have to be focused on ourselves, and we are wasting resources and potentially risking lives of our servicemen there in Syria. Still, I mean, I don't know. This is insanity, man. In my personal opinion, yet again, but also, reports are coming in that, probably you are already familiar that a U.S. House of Representatives voted to release Epstein files. Bill passed 432 in favor, one against. Chuck Schumer, leader of Democrats, stated that he will push Senate to immediately take it up and pass it. So let's see. By the way, at this point, probably these Epstein files were thoroughly checked, right? And all the files that U.S. elites want to keep out, probably they already destroyed them, right? Or removed from the files. They will release some stuff. But it's not gonna be original papers. It's not going to be original documentation, by the way. Full picture, never going to be released. Otherwise, I mean, you tell me why these Epstein files were not published already. From the very beginning, actually, why these files were not published. From the very freaking beginning, by Biden's administration or by Trump's administration. Why? Because the entire political class, most of it, is corrupt criminals in US, right? And in the West in general, right? Entire freaking elites are corrupt, despicable scum of humanity. Many of them are taped committing crimes. Many of them are taped with in that island and God knows where, right? And the Saturn forces, Israel, neocons, globalists, whoever wants to use those files, those videos, they are using it for blackmail, right? Quite often, probably against each other. So that's all it is, man. US is total disgrace. US political class, Western political class, elites are total disgrace. I mean, really, тошнотворные животные. That's what they are, man. Sickening animals, man. sickening freaking animals, man. It's even it's просто противно even говорить об этом. Even it's disgusts me to even talk about those creatures, man. That's how filthy they are. And on the topic of Epstein files, representative of ABC or some so-called media in the US asked Trump about those Epstein files, why those files were not released or something, and Trump went crazy, and he attacked this reporter. She might be a good reporter or bad reporter, but she's a human being. I mean, she's a person, and to humiliate, to assault her, I mean, publicly, and this, I mean, Trump acted as a freaking animal, man. I'm gonna show you a video. There is no explanations for such behavior, man. Total disgrace, right? I mean, honestly, man. Просто тошнотворные животные, ребят, я вам говорю. Да. So just look at it, man. This journalist may be good one or bad one. Maybe she's not even journalist, but a propagandist or whatever. But she is a human being, and if you have any issues, talk to that person normally, at least, right? But Trump went to attack her personally, began calling names, and what the hell, man? Level of degeneration of Western so-called elites has no boundaries, man. Absolutely. I just want to demonstrate this for you. Just look at this video.
For Congress to release the Epstein files. Why not just do it now?
You know, it's not the question that I mind, it's your attitude. I think you are a terrible reporter. It's the way you ask these questions. You start off with a man who's highly respected, asking him a horrible, insubordinate, and just a terrible question. And you could even ask that same exact question nicely. You're all psyched up. Somebody psychs you over at ABC. They're going to psych it. You're a terrible person and a terrible reporter. As far as the Epstein files is, I have nothing to do with Jeffrey Epstein. I threw him out of my club many years ago because I thought he was a sick pervert. But I guess I turned out to be right. But you know who does have? Bill Clinton, Larry Summers, who ran Harvard, was with him every single night, every single weekend. They lived together. They went to his island many times. I never did. Andrew Weissman, I hear. All these guys were friends of his. You don't even talk about those people. You just keep going on the Epstein files. And what the Epstein is a Democrat hoax to try and get me not to be able to talk about the $21 trillion that I talked about today. It's a hoax. Now, I just got a little report, and I put it in my pocket, of all the money that he's given to Democrats. He gave me none, zero, no money to me. But he gave money to Democrats. And people are wise to your hoax. And ABC's your company, your crappy company, is one of the perpetrators. And I'll tell you something.
So why not just sign it now?
I think the license should be taken away from ABC because your news is so fake and it's so wrong. And we have a great commissioner, the chairman, who should look at that, because I think when you come in and when you're 97% negative to Trump, and then Trump wins the election in a landslide, that means obviously your news is not credible, and you're not credible as a reporter. So I've answered your question. You should go and look at the Democrats who received money from Epstein, who spent their time. Larry Summers was with him all the time. That creep, the fund guy, was with him all the time. What's his name?
Reid Hoffman.
Who? Reid Hoffman. I don't know Reid Hoffman, but I know he spends a lot of money on the radical left. Reid Hoffman, in my opinion, should be under investigation. He's a sleazebag. And those are the people, but they don't get any press, they don't get any news, and you're not after the radical left because you're a radical left network. But I think the way you ask a question with the anger and the meanness is terrible. You ought to go back and learn how to be a reporter. No more questions from you.
Well, I mean, what can I say, man? This is wrong on so many levels. When it comes to Trump MBS, that's one story. He went to try to defend their MBS. He ignored basically Khashoggi's story, a journalist that was killed by Saudis in embassy in Turkey, right? So Trump ignored that as if it's nothing. He was very protective of MBS in a way. I saw some fragments of their conversation with the journalists, but that's one story. That's one story. We all know what Saudi Arabia is. It's a state sponsor of terrorism, right? Saudi Arabia was, is, and will be state sponsor of terrorism. As long as that country probably exists, because religion, local religion, by the way, they are not just Sunnis, they are Wahhabis, right? They are Salafists, man. That is the strain of Sunni Islam that was adopted by Al-Qaeda, ISIS, all of those radical terrorist groups, right? Islamic radicals. They are Salafists, Wahhabis, right? And Saudi Arabia is the country that was promoting that direction, that wave in Sunni Islam. And they will continue to do so, right? If you believe that Saudi is reforming and Saudi is becoming more civilized, Saudi leadership is becoming more civilized and stuff, I mean, come on, man. I mean, seriously. They have a lot of money and they are just bribing just about everybody they want her. Just recently, they had their freaking comedy shows there in Saudi, and dozens of leading comedians from US went in, by the way, and acted as if they are in a freaking, I don't know, man, paradise or something. Disgusting, right? Absolutely. So Saudi is a Saudi. We all know that there is, what Saudi is. But Trump, to attack journalists, by the way, reporter, female. I mean, if that was a male, okay, fuck it, man. One might say, you know what, just fuck you all. But he is attacking women this viciously, insulting her personally. I mean, this is crazy. This is freaking crazy, man. Maybe she is too bad, man, as a reporter. Maybe, I don't know who that person is, man. As a reporter, maybe she is too bad. Maybe she is very, radical left or whatever, but she is a human, for God's sake. And if you have issues with that person, tell your press service not to allow this person in White House. That's it. On the press conferences, you can do it. But to insult someone like that, woman, especially women, by the way, this is disgusting on an unbelievable level, right? And that creature is a US president. This dirty fucking animal, man, that Trump is. And the entire his freaking cabinet administration. Scum of humanity, man. Total freaking disgrace. Unbelievable, man. Unbelievable. I don't know. Maybe you disagree with me. I don't think anybody is disagree with me. But you cannot act this way, man. You just cannot. Right? This is inappropriate. Always, everywhere. Period. Trump, disgusting freaking creature, man. Anyways, let's continue. RT is reporting that EU cuts economic growth forecast for 2026. What a surprise. They don't gonna have no economical growth in EU, by the way. Let's be real here. They are manipulating with numbers to create this illusion that European economy is growing. But in reality, they are in a recession. European economy and leading economies in EU are in a recession. But even when they are manipulating with numbers, their forecast was 1.4% of economical growth, and they dropped it to 1.2% because there is no economical growth there, and not gonna be. The European economy is finished, man. Finished. Only chance they had was to cooperate with Russia. They blew that chance. and Europe is doomed 20, 30 years from now. Europe gonna be no any more relevant region in this world than I don't know, man. Central America, for example. And Central America is important, don't get me wrong, by the way. After all, there is a Panama Channel there, right? But still, I mean, level of influence on the geopolitical scale of Europe in 20, 30 years' time is going to be just about on the level of Central America, probably less than that, right? If any. If any. And there is a high probability that Europe going to go down even further than that. RT is also reporting that Russian and Indian foreign ministers had a meeting here in Russia, in Moscow, and they discussed strategical partnership of the sides, between the sides, and also Russian President Vladimir Putin had a meeting with their legendary, I will say, foreign minister of India, Subramaniam Jaishankar. Yet again, main topic of discussion, of course, is bilateral relationships. And if anybody was hoping that due to US pressure and potential cut on Indian side of purchases of Russian oil, relationships between Moscow and New Delhi would collapse, no, man. I was saying from the beginning that even if India will cut, and because of the Western pressure, purchases of Russian oil, relationships going to remain friendly, good, because we are strategical partners, right? And it's not going to change. And you have factual evidence that I was correct, right? Not just Russian foreign minister greeted Indian colleague, but Russian president also. And Jaishankar is here in Moscow to participate a meeting of the Shanghai Cooperation Organization Heads of Governments Council, about which I did reported yesterday that this council is taking place yesterday and today, right? Russian president also met with the Chinese Prime Minister Li Qiang, who is also in Russia to participate in that summit of Shanghai Cooperation Organization. And level of cooperation between Russia and China is also, of course, unprecedented, literally unprecedented. We never had these good relationships between Russia and China. TASS News Agency is reporting that Russian Ministry of Finance is promising a similar response to confiscation of Russian assets. So the Russian Ministry of Finances will use similar measures in the event of confiscation of Russian assets. A draft of such measures has been prepared. Finance Minister Anton Siluanov told the reporters on the sidelines of the State Duma. And I remind you, dear friends, that about 300 billion of Western investments here in Russia can be confiscated if West will go ahead and steal Russian frozen assets. Siluanov is saying that draft is already prepared, but of course, final decision is on Kremlin. And to be honest, I'm not sure that Kremlin will actually authorize nationalization of Western investments. I'm really not sure about it. I'm quite sure that West will steal Russian frozen assets. But when it comes to retaliation, I'm not sure Putin will allow Russian state institutions to nationalize Western investments. And they should, by the way, they should nationalize, because Russian investors into Western economy have to be compensated, right? But yet again, based on what I see from Putin's policies, I don't think he will authorize nationalization of Western investments. Maybe I'm wrong, I don't know, but that's my personal opinion. TASS News Agency is also reporting that, Russian Su-35 fifth-gen fighter jet, that also known as a Checkmate, will conduct first flight in 2026, which is good news. So the first flight of Su-75, by the way, Checkmate light tactical aircraft will take place in 2026. This was announced by hero of Russia, the chief pilot of the Sukhoi Design Bureau of their United Aircraft Corporation, Sergei Bogdan, legendary pilot, by the way, absolutely legendary pilot. And because he is announcing that in 2026 they're going to be first flight, I guess plane prototypes already have been built. At least 2 prototypes probably are already built, or maybe 3 even, right? And if first flight gonna take place in 2026, if everything is okay, mass production of plane might begin around 2030, 2031 earliest, I think, because from first flight to mass production, usually it does takes like several years minimum, by the way. Sometimes even more than a decade, sometimes even 2 decades. So just because you build prototypes does not mean that next year you're going to start mass production. But I think if fighter jet will demonstrate good characteristics, and if, first of all, if there will be demand, if United Aircraft Corporation will have some notes from Russian Defense Ministry or some defense ministries of other countries that they are interested in the plane, then in that case, work will continue. And I guess by 2030, 2031, plane will complete all the tests and then mass production will begin. Although, of course, dear friends, that Russia already operates with their 5th gen fighter jet, which is Su-57. And yesterday I did a report about it, but I think it's worth mentioning once again that according to United Aircraft Corporation, first 2 5th generation Su-57 export modifications have been delivered to foreign customer. And even though speculations continues on internet, which countries brought this plane, some are suggesting China even, by the way. I mean, come on, why would China buy Su-57? I don't know. They have their own 5th gen fighter jets, right? And for engine's sake, they brought quite a number of Russian Su-35s at the time to have engines for their J-20s, right? And many Chinese planes still are operating on Russian engines. Chinese did not master it yet. Production of reliable engines, as reliable as Russian engines are, right? And this is a big deal, obviously. So I disregard the possibility of China purchasing Russian Su-57s. They don't really have any need for that. Or if they want to buy engines, they will buy engines, right? But Algeria, I think, very well might be the country, Algeria in North Africa, very well might be the country that is the first who received the Russian Su-57Es. E is exporter modification. So good news here, good news for Russian aerospace industry. And I remind you, dear friends, that right now Russian Su-57 aircraft is participating in Dubai Air Show, Dubai Air Show 2025, and maybe we will learn in upcoming days that some more contracts were signed to deliver this most beautiful plane ever built, by the way. Right? So yes, good story, good success there. I was hoping, by the way, that India will get engaged big time. India was a part of this program initially, but it was at some point Indian side was not happy with some stuff, right? They withdraw from the project, but they might re-enter this project now, and soon we might see licensed production of Su-57s in India, as it was done with the Su-30 multi-role fighter jet. That would be great, by the way. We need Indian militaries to be on top of the game for strategical safety of the world, right? It's in everybody's interests. Definitely is in Russian interests, India to be well equipped or well ready for any possible scenarios, right? So yes, this is it for now, dear friends. This is it for news segment. Hopefully there was no technical issues today and sound was gooder all the way and video. Let me check Rumble if there was any super chat. There was no super chat on Rumble, dear friends. Let me check Boosty. So there was nothing, no messages either on Rumble or on a Boosty to highlight her. And so that's about it then. Let me make sure that Anna didn't send me. Okay, there is no message from Anna too. So okay, this is it, dear friends, for now then. To members of our community on Patreon and Boosty, I will just say that this morning I published a video, walk and talk news update type of video. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to finish that video because phone battery ran out. But I did walk through several streets, so hopefully community on Patreon and Boosty would will find it interesting anyways, right? And well, today I'll try to publish some additional extra also on Patreon and Boosty. And dear friends, if you like my work, if you want to support, you can do it through several means. Links are on this video in the description box and in the pinned comment. Okay, this is it for now. Have a wonderful day and take care.